Hi, my name is Spencer. I'm an attorney here at VA Disability Group. Today I'm going to be discussing esophageal disorders, C&P exams, and the associated DBQ with you. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to discuss the regulations that define how to rate esophageal conditions, and second I'm going to go over esophageal DBQ with you. A DBQ is just an acronym for Disability Benefits Questionnaire. This is the form the VA examiner is going to be filling out at your examination. The first thing I'm going to discuss is the regulations that define how to rate esophageal disorders. So the regulation is 38 CFR section 4.114, Schedule of Ratings for Digestive Conditions or Digestive System. There are many different types of esophageal disorders and digestive disorders, and so what we're going to do is focus on the one that's the most common for veterans, the one that most veterans suffer from and most veterans are claiming and trying to get disability for is something called GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. Now, the applicable diagnostic code in the 38 CFR 4.114 here will be 7346. So what we're going to do is scroll down to 7346. And this says here, 7346 hernia hiatal. Now, something to explain here is the VA does not actually have a diagnostic code for GERD or gastroesophageal reflux disease. So what the regulation tells the VA adjudicators to do is to rate GERD or gastroesophageal reflux disease under an analogous code. The analogous code is simply what diagnostic code or what condition most closely associates or approximates the symptoms a veteran will be suffering from with said condition. So in this case, the symptoms that are most common for someone who's suffering from gastroesophageal reflux disease mirror the symptoms for hernia hiatal. So that's why it's going to be rated under diagnostic code 7346. Under diagnostic code 7346, the veteran will be assigned either a 10, a 30, or 60% rating based on the frequency and severity of their symptoms. So for example, we can see here at the 30%, persistently recurrent epigastric distress with dysphagia, pyrosis, regurgitation, accompanied by substernal arm or shoulder pain and productive of considerable impairment in health. Those symptoms there will correspond to a 30% rating under the regulation here. Page 1 on the esophageal conditions DBQ, there's not really much to discuss here. The examiner simply marks a box, they reviewed your claims file, and they write what records they reviewed. They usually don't put too much here, and there's nothing you can do to change this, so there's nothing to talk about, and we'll go on to page 2. So page 2, here's at the top of page 2, the VA examiner is simply going to check a box stating what esophageal or digestive condition you have. So in this case, you can see there's GERD is the top one, gastroesophageal reflux disease, there's hernia hiatal, there's esophageal stricture. Those are all there. So they're just going to note what diagnoses you have. Section 2 is the medical history section midway through the page. Here, the examiner is going to briefly discuss the medical history, and this will just simply be the onset of your symptoms. When did you start noticing, the regurgitation, the heartburn, the substernal arm pain? Was that on active duty? Was it prior to active duty? Was it post-active duty? So when did your symptoms start? And then do you take any medications for those? Do you take omazepam? Do you take Tums? Do you take any medications to treat this condition you have? So like I said, we're going to be discussing GERD because that's the most common one. So here, that's why I brought those medications. A veteran usually would state, after my military service or briefly when I got home, I started experiencing heartburn frequently, substernal arm pain, regurgitation, reflux symptoms. I take omazepam daily for it, and I take Tums when it acts up even more. Then we're going to go on to section 3 here, because that's pretty much everything you have to state for acid reflux or GERD. Section 3, this is the most important section. This is going to be where the examiner marks off the boxes, and these boxes, like I said, they correspond right to the regulation. You can see here. For example, the symptoms combination, the symptoms productive of considerable impairment in health is that top box there. That's the box we referred to or talked about earlier, where that corresponds to a 30% rating, and underneath they're going to mark those symptoms we discussed, such as reflux, regurgitation, substernal or arm pain, sleep disturbances, all these kind of things. And so the top box there, considerable impairment in health, that translates to a 30% rating. The symptoms productive of severe impairment of health, that translates to a 60% rating. And then, noting a couple of those symptoms but not checking either of those boxes will translate to a 10% rating for acid reflux or GERD. So that's the most important part. That's everything you need to know today for the GERD DBQ. You simply need to make it clear what symptoms you had, the onset of those symptoms, what medications you take for them, and how badly they affect your health, because that's how you're going to get evaluated under the appropriate regulation. So these other sections here, they're not important for GERD. They may be important for other conditions, depending on what conditions you have. That's everything for today. I did want to clarify one last thing here. The symptoms I was discussing, they do extend from page 2 actually to the top of page 3 here as well. That is nausea, vomiting, and so forth. And so that is everything we need to know for the GERD or esophageal DBQ today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you wanted more information, feel free to click the links below the video to the DBQ and the appropriate regulation if you'd like to review it yourself. Thanks and goodbye.